Thank you. Our next panel, private sector's role in building resilient societies, is starting very shortly. Our moderator is Mr. Marcos Neto, Director of UNDP. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening, and congratulations all of you for surviving to 6 o'clock. It's been a very long day, but very interesting day. So indulge us for one more hour on another very important subject in that sense. Let me just give you a few introduction word, and then Ali is going to, start it, and we'll have a very exciting panel. I don't necessarily like to introduce panelists, so I've asked all of them when they start they speak, they can say a few words about themselves and their organizations. Now, as you all know, we live in a world today that you have the largest numbers of migrants and displaced refugee people since the Second World War, about 65 million people. We have also a growing number of natural disasters happen with more frequency as with harder conditions. And as most of you know, in May this year here in Istanbul, the first ever United Nations organized World Humanitarian Summit took place. In preparation for the May Humanitarian Summit, our colleagues at the United Nations Office Coordination for Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, conducted a global consultation with 19 consultations regarding the role of the private sector in humanitarian action. The second thing we've learned is that the private sector wants to engage in humanitarian action in a strategic way, and in a way that goes through the preparedness side, the mitigation of risks, the emergency response, as well as the recovery. And the third thing that we've learned is the private sector does not know who to talk to about this, right? And how do I make available my recourses, my resources, my innovation, my capacity, right, in that sense. So, 3 organizations, UNDP, the Istanbul International Center for Private Sector and Development, UN OCHA, and UNISDR, which is our colleagues at the United Nations that look at the disaster risk reduction, have come together to create it, what are we calling the Connecting Business Initiative. And the Connecting Business Initiative aims to accomplish 2 things. One is to help the private sector at national level to analyze its own vulnerability to humanitarian issues, to natural disasters, or to conflict. What we've also learned during the consultation is that a lot of companies, especially middle and small-sized companies, are very vulnerable to the same external shocks and external vulnerabilities that we all as citizens are, being an earthquake in Istanbul and a hurricane in Central America, or a war in Yemen. And we also know that if those companies cease their operation, they actually means lost jobs, lost economic activity, lost taxpayers, and therefore the recovery after an emergency and humanitarian situation becomes much more complicated. So the Connecting Business Initiative is trying to help, through chambers of commerce, through large associations, to map and to analyze how companies can become more resilient and what do they need to do. Now, a lot of you are business. Do companies have business continuity plans? And that is not just small companies. Large companies also don't have, and we've seen that recently in Sri Lanka, for example. The second aspect is how those private sector networks can better connect it to the national resilience plans, to the national policies for disaster risk reduction, emergency response, and recovery, and become a fully integrated element on this as the private sector demanded, through the entire strategic way. Why this is important? I've worked a lot in my career in emergencies, both natural disasters and man-made, and I've learned one thing. If you are exchanging business cards in the middle of an emergency, you're too late. You have to exchange business cards before the emergency. You have to build trust and get to know each other before the disaster happens. Then you can actually be effective in a moment of fast pace. The Connecting Business Initiative is working in several countries, including in Turkey, where we are working with Turkenfed and with Salon Kobi, with UPS, in mapping up policy regulations in Turkey, as well as how much resilience exists, in the Turkish private sector. And we are also working in 10 other countries, and we have a plan to expand it to 40 countries. We've been very happy that we've been able to attract to the Connecting Business Initiative private companies like UPS, philanthropies like the Hilton Foundation, as well as the institutional supporters, governments like the Belgians and the Turkey and the Australians, and more to come. So that is to frame what is the Connecting Business Initiative and what is the issue, right? And why, in today's world, just like I said it yesterday for those that were here when I spoke on the panel, there is no way that the Sustainable Development Goals will be achieved without the private sector. There is no way that we can manage the current migration crisis as well as the growth in natural disasters which climate change might bring it without the private sector. And if we don't manage those elements, we don't achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, because those tend to be the people that are left behind the first. So, as a sort of introduction to you and to set it up, each panelist has about 7 minutes. Then we're going to start with my good friend Ali to kick us in.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Marcos. We have been working with CBI for a couple of months after Humanitarian Summit, and we are very motivated. My name is Ali, and I do represent Corporate Social Responsibility Association of Turkey. We have been implementing a project with UPS Global Foundation, here with us also today, called Sağlam KOBİ, which is Resilient SMEs, Strong SMEs. We actually, with UPS, started this project after the 2011 earthquake that happened in the eastern part of Turkey, a city called Van. This earthquake hit huge numbers of lives and also the business. So right after 1 year, we went for the preparations of the project. There were only around 15% of the companies who are at the organized industrial zones sustain their business activities. So after a disaster happens, not only the social life, emergency side, survival side, or physical damage side, the economy, the sustainability, economic sustainability has also highly affected from such earthquakes or natural disasters. So, coming from this happening, a reason, one earthquake also it touches hearts, but it was also open that companies, SMEs, are also heart of an economy in a country. So we are always in Turkey proud that like more than 95% of the business is based on SMEs. But once we look at their preparedness to disaster, it's very weak. So after following the project partners, stakeholder partnerships, key stakeholders, so we had a huge preparation process for the project. Then after 2012, we started the project as an online toolkit, as a training manual. And since then, we reached out 1,200 SMEs in 16 cities of Turkey, having good partnership with local chambers of commerce under umbrella of Turkish Chamber of Commerce. Besides that, we have an online toolkit. This online toolkit also raised awareness through social media, web platform, which reached out around 15,000 people, beneficiaries, through like more than 80% of the cities in Turkey. So Sağlam KOBİ, we call like Strong SMEs project. We try to change the mindset in Turkey, how business approaches its daily business also. So we try to change the business mindset in Turkey to also integrate disasters, preparedness to daily business strategy. So business strategy should take into consideration of disaster-related scenarios, disaster preparedness, and also supply chain. So once we are saying small and medium enterprises, it's also an important part of the local value chains. So in that sense, although we try to reach out, because this is a pilot program in Turkey, it started with UPS Global Foundation's support with World Economic Forum and US Chamber of Commerce. So it was the idea to have a pilot in Turkey, to also create a model in Turkey. So I think CBI is a very critical initiative to also leverage this initiative at the global level, starting from regional partnerships, from Philippines to Mexico. So we are discussing those kind of know-how transfer. So the experience in Turkey, we try to also build this as a global network partnership through Sağlam KOBİ, which we believe the pilot implementation phase in Turkey reached out critical results, know-how, learning, and also future strategies for how to make businesses concentrate on disaster preparedness. Just let me give an example, because we started with a cause for this project, which was one earthquake, and maybe you are now in Turkey. We have lots of international visitors for this conference. Just yesterday evening, we had a fire in a girls' dormitory in one of the industrial cities. 12 young girls, just secondary school students, passed away. And they just passed away in front of the door, which was locked because of fire, pedestrians. So this is just, we need to change the mindset. We experience this through, because we are giving face-to-face training to like 1,200 SMEs all over Turkey. What we saw is, once you give little examples, once you change the approach, the angle you are looking, it changes a lot. Just 2 years ago, there was a flood in one of the islands in Aegean Sea of Turkey. We met a jewelry guy. He has just 3-person, stuff, small jewelry. But he's an artisan. He learned from his master. And he says that all the designs he got as a fortune from his master, he lost them because of the flood. Because he was hiding it under a box. Because he didn't have a scenario of a flood. Because, it can happen. Because it happens. Heavy rain, it can happen. And he lost all his business assets. His business assets is the designs of the master. So he lost it. We asked him, do you have mobile, like smart mobile phone? He said, yes. Do you have pictures? Yes. But he didn't even took the pictures of the designs. It's just simple. It's just easy, but what we need is to focus and integrate disaster preparedness. Either it's natural, either it's financial, cybersecurity. We should integrate disaster scenarios, preparedness into our business strategy. So Sağlam KOBİ is taking a flag up on this in Turkey and try to develop engagement with private sector, integrating other partnerships. Really thanks to Google, it's a really global sustainability approach, using their know-how on logistics and seeding it to a new approach in Turkey to also engage and integrate and enable other private sector companies to also be part of this network. So we have an advisory board which is composed of 40 key stakeholders all over Turkey. So UNDP was also part of this partnership since the beginning. Now with the CBI, I think we are going to leverage this initiative, and also with the feedbacks, approaches, or also welcoming new initiatives in other countries, we will carry this experience, Sağlam KOBİ experience, to different countries, and also we'll learn from different local cases, and starting from SMEs, maybe we will leverage it to other key stakeholders like children, students, cities. Which we need is to develop new approaches, creative approaches to make the world a better place. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ali. Perfect timing. Now, I have one question that I will kickstart to the other three panelists. And perhaps Hans-Peter on the other end can go first. But you know, you work for UPS, but this applies to all panelists, right? And your organization is engaged in private sector. You know, you are the private sector, right? Even though you're UPS Foundation. But you know, how does the organization, each one of you, engage in private sector to build the resilience of the business and their communities? What successes and challenges have you experienced in building that resilience? And what opportunities do you see in working with governments and with other actors to increase that resilience? So kind of three-part questions. Hans, do you want to take it over? About 7 minutes on your end as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcus. Well, as Ali has already talked a lot about our signature project, so a little bit more time that I can spend and talk about the beginnings. Maybe that's relevant to give you a bit of understanding of what we are doing. So first of all, just to briefly introduce myself and the foundation, I'm with the UPS Foundation, which is the charitable arm of UPS. We have about 440,000 employees worldwide, thus meaning that we are very people-centric. We have a lot of employees, and we are trying, with the programs we have in place, to enable volunteering opportunities for our people worldwide, globally. So not only in the US, but as well in other places. Now, the foundation usually has a mission, and the mission has been set up by our founder, one of the founders of UPS in 1951. So that is already more than 60 years ago. So the foundation is a bit older. It was always supporting resilient communities, making them resilient against outside disasters and any strikes that could happen. That has been the place over 60 years. Now, in the beginning, we did it in a different way. We were focusing on volunteering and helping the communities more in a FTSE logic way, because the employees were the ones that were directing grants, for example, into local organizations, helping the communities to build up programs that they believe that are relevant. Now, when we focus on education, on literacy and hunger in the beginning, at some point about 15 years ago, we realized that we would have to change things. We are a logistics company, so we are building supply chains usually each and every day. And, you know, the customers we do have a lot of them are small and medium-sized enterprises, thus meaning the most vulnerable parts of the society, as Ali mentioned, and this is not only the case in Turkey, it's the case in almost each and every country, that SMEs are usually more vulnerable than corporations. And it is as well true that here in Turkey, 99.7 or 8%, I think, of the organizations, of the business organizations are SMEs. In most of the other countries, you have as well figures high in the 90s. Thus meaning, working with small and medium-sized enterprises for us means we are protecting our customers, we are helping our customers to grow, we are helping our customers as well to protect themselves. And that was the reason why we more and more went into the resilience sphere. Now, we have other focus areas as well. So we have diversity and inclusion, we are working in sustainability, but the community programs, so the programs to help building resilient communities were always in the forefront and make a big portion out of our spending and as well as of our activities. The signature program, of course, is here Saglam Kobi in Turkey, and it is successful in the way we are seeing it. Successful as a pilot, that's what I have to say. Pilot always means it is a test case. So, of course, we are thinking about scaling and extending and how we can work with that. However, it depends, of course, coming back to your question, Marcos, a lot as well on government support and cooperation with the government, as the rules for sustainable businesses, resilient businesses are set by the government. And we work with partners. So in Saglam Kobi, we have an advisory board with about 40 members, business organizations, companies, big corporations, smaller ones. And it is really relevant, and I think that's one of the most important part, to really broaden the scope and work with partners to make sure that you have a really wide basis for support. One corporation is not able to really make the difference. At the end of the day, we can make it a starting point, but to make it a difference, that's a long way to go. Just to give you one example. We have now, I have to correct you because I saw the latest figures though. We have trained about 1,450 small and medium-sized and representatives of SMEs. Is that success? Well, yeah, it is success. Given that we didn't have anybody trained 3 years ago, I would consider it as a good progress in a pilot project. Now, if you think about 1.4 million small and medium-sized enterprises that are